Oh. Okay.
God, this is horrible.
We're good.
This
We're
is
good.
worse than being the coach.
No, we're alright.
This is so much worse. Okay.
Alright, Logan. So, what are the overall goals of your paper? Or of your speech, I mean?
I think I struggled a lot. Like, I had the topic that I wanted to talk about, and then I had, like, the specifics, but, like, I had a really hard time balancing and finding the right organization to portray it in a story mode. Does that make sense?
No, yeah.
This chair is spinning. Yeah, so, like, that was something that I really had a hard time, sorry, this chair, that I had a hard time with. Like, I rewrote my speech, like, 4 times because I didn't know. You'll see, like, I talk about, like, the spoon theory, which I know sounds really weird.
Right.
And then, like, all of the different roles that we have to juggle, and then having a chronic illness, like being really flippin' sick.
Right.
How do you juggle those? But then I also had to tie it back to my audience, who majority don't
understand what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, like, that was hard for me. I think I got it maybe down, but, like, I'm going to need a lot of organizational feedback. And then also, like, I'm very familiar with the spoon theory because, like, it's my life. But, like, you probably aren't. Like, you probably never even heard of it before. So, like...
I was going to ask you what that was, actually.
You'll see. I kind of want you to see it in the speech so that you can tell me whether it makes sense to you as an audience member. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So do you think that, I asked you for your goals, so are you basically just worried about
organization and whether it makes sense.
Okay.
And so then also, like, I'm going to have specific questions for, like, should I make... Once I give it, you'll be able to see more, but I'm probably going to have specific questions for you about, like, where should I put this section, where should I put that section, because I have 4 sections of mine.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay,
All right,
those are my goals.
That's your goals? Okay, we got it. We got it established. Goals and worries.
Yes.
Nice.
Always worried, always anxious.
So you're going to go through the speech now?
Yeah, sure.
Alrighty.
Okay. I still haven't manuscripted. I don't have it memorized. I should have it memorized by now. I don't. Okay. I am grateful to have a limited amount of spoons. Some of you may know what this means, and some of you probably think that I'm crazy. I live in the constant tension between what I want to do and what I'm actually feasibly able to do. This is because I have an illness that impacts every single aspect of my life. Some might call me a spoonie. Maybe it's time to explain that. In 2003, Christine Miserandino was sitting in her apartment when her roommate asked her what life was like with lupus. Christine was puzzled because her roommate went to every doctor's appointment with her, saw her take countless medications, saw her violently ill and bedridden. Christine didn't know how to fully answer, but she had this idea. She gave her roommate a pile of spoons and asked her to list every single thing that she did that day, including starting getting out of bed. For each task, Christine took a spoon away from her. These are tasks like brushing her teeth, taking a shower, fixing her hair versus just brushing it. Every single time, Christine took a spoon away. By mid-morning, or midway through her routine, all of the spoons were gone, and her friend was like, "What do I do now?" Christine told her that that's what life with a chronic illness is like, where energy is defined as spoons. You only have a finite amount of energy to get you through the day, and once it's gone, there's nothing you can do to get it back. So each and every day, we have to make intentional decisions to make our energy or our spoons last. As an able-bodied person, you may have 100 or more spoons, and you don't have to make every decision throughout the day by the number of spoons that you have. I live every single day according to my energy levels because I don't know when my next big health crisis is going to be. I always have to keep some sort of energy reserved. Like, what if I go to the hospital? That completely drains me. When I read her story for the first time, I was in a puddle of tears. I'd never had a way of explaining to my family how it felt. You see, if I run errands today and skip a nap, that means tomorrow my fatigue might be so high that I can't safely go to class. Or if I sleep 5 minutes too late, I don't have time to eat, and I can't take my medicine. Well, if I don't have my medicine, then by noon, I'll be vomiting and in so much pain I can't even walk. If I stay up too late to turn that assignment in on time or follow that presentation, I risk being so dizzy and unwell the next day that I can't drive safely or even get out of bed, which means that it affects my roommate or my husband. Every choice that I make defines how my tomorrow will be. I have a limited amount of resources, And though I can borrow against spoons for tomorrow, what if I get a chest cold or an infection? I have to have something reserved in case I get very sick, or else my body wouldn't have the energy to fight it. Until I learned about the spoon theory, I thought that no one was ever going to understand why I made the choices that I did. You see, we all have different roles to fit into, or different hats that we wear. For me, it's being a woman who's married, a full-time student, a dog mom, a family member, and someone who is extremely ill and has a limited amount of resources because of my illness. Each of us have different hats that we juggle, and with a society that pressures us to be busy all of the time, we are unable to truly rest without guilt. Not only is the glorification of busy harmful to our mental and physical health, it's downright dangerous for those who have chronic illnesses. Some of us who are women understand that we have this pressure to be perfect, to be a princess, to manage life at home, at school, or at work with grace. Idleness is failure because we all see this mountain of work that should be getting done. I can personally attest to having a mountain of laundry, a pile of dishes in my sink, floors that my mother would be ashamed of. Not to mind you, every single bed in my house is probably unmade. There's this culture where we say yes to more than we can healthily handle and wear chaotic busyness as a badge of honor. We constantly see women talking about how busy they are and how little sleep they get and how much they do. Getting little sleep and having a lot of stress is seen as normal. And then as a college student, which is another role that I have, we each have 4 to 6 classes or 12 to sometimes 21 credit hours plus homework to do. There's this pressure to have a vibrant extracurricular life, as well as the constant fear that without it, our resumes won't be good without it. We have pressures to engage in Greek life and social engagements, as well as pressures to find a good job and prove that we didn't just waste tens of thousands of dollars. I cannot remember a single day in the nearly 3 years that I have been a student where I haven't heard either myself or a fellow classmate talk about how overwhelmed and anxious they are about our workload. It never really turns off. We're in this constant cycle of production and pressure to succeed, cutting every single self-care corner that we can to boost our success. It's seen as shameful to say no. I used to feel copious amounts of guilt for asking for an extension or saying no to being the leader of a group project or even telling a friend that I can't be their person at the moment. It was so bad that 2 years ago I spun myself into the ground. I thought I was thriving. My lowest grade was a 96%. I made plenty of time for friends. I was constantly on top of schoolwork and emails. I wouldn't dare ever ask for an extension. For the first time in my life, every area of it was going well. But what you don't see from this description is that I was in so much pain I was throwing up and passing out daily. What you don't see from this description was that I was in so much pain I was throwing up and passing out daily. I was drinking 8 to 10 shots of espresso every single day. I survived on a schedule laid out in my planner. My days were meticulously planned, even with times to eat and sleep, which was only maybe happening 2 to 4 hours a night. I was doing so well in school, but my success was at a detriment to my health. My hair was falling out, I was fainting often, I had to take medication to sleep and medication to handle the unexplained pains. It all came to a breaking point right before finals my freshman year. My boyfriend, who's now my husband, told me that I had to go to the hospital because my pains got worse and I started throwing up blood. I was unwilling to accept the fact that I couldn't handle my busyness any longer. I was so stressed all of the time that I gave myself a bleeding ulcer in my stomach. How would I tell my professors that the night that I spent in the hospital I couldn't get my paper in? How could I tell my friends that I couldn't hang out with them anymore, hardly? How could I accept that I needed to choose to say no? I felt like my life was over. I couldn't be that girl that had the perfect high school sweetheart relationship, a gorgeous clean home, and a 4.0 any longer. That first hospital trip was a wake-up call, though it was nothing compared to my final diagnosis, which was Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It explained the 24 broken bones and constant dislocations. It explained the pain, the frequent panic attacks, and the constant exhaustion from my body trying to heal itself, as well as the frequent fainting. It explained the pain, but no one had the answer of my biggest question, which is, how do I do it all? How do I juggle all of my roles? I have 11 different medical doctors and specialists on my team, and every single one of them told me that I had to slow my pace or give up on everything that I was working for because I was going to injure myself beyond repair. My adrenals were shot, My heart couldn't keep up, and my body was screaming for me to slow down, but this pressure to keep going was pervasive. I had to choose to slow down. I no longer have a 4.0. I no longer keep a schedule, and I say no more than I say yes. Sometimes the guilt gets to me, but if I push today, then tomorrow I will feel it, and it will seriously hurt. I'm not a person that could have made this choice to slow down without someone forcing me, and I would be lying if I said that I don't miss the adrenaline rushes or caffeine highs. But what I have now is so much greater. I'm forced to accept help. I'm absolutely grateful for every single thing that I'm able to do because I know what it's like to not be able to get out of bed. And the only way that I'm able to do the amount that I am is because I had to mercilessly cut extras from my life. I learned to be grateful to have a limited amount of spoons because I did not choose, it gave me no choice but to slow down. What I want you to get from this is that though you may not have a chronic illness, you should be able to give yourself the permission to fail and say no, even if you don't have a physical reason. And when others need help or grace, I hope that you will freely give it. I wish that I could tell you that I have the magical formula to not feel guilt when slowing down. I wish I could tell you I have the magical formula to not feel guilt when slowing down means that you can't keep up, or that I'm even very good at listening to my body, because I'm not. But what I do know is that when being forced to slow down, I look at others with so much more empathy and grace. And in our world of conflict, I sincerely hope that you make the decision to simplify and take care of yourself. I promise you that the world will keep turning if you choose to prioritize taking care of yourself over your badge of busyness.
Oh, that was pretty good.
It was way long though, I bet.
Oh, it's 11:46 right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that including our goals beforehand?
Yeah, it is including the goals.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're at 12 minutes exactly. So just to give you some feedback on it. The first thing I noticed. So did you say this is like not start off bad or anything?
That's fine.
In the beginning of the speech, did you say lupus? Is that what you said at first?
Yeah, so that's what she has, but I do not. So like whenever.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Here. Her roommate asked her what life was like with lupus. So like that's whenever she developed the theory of like the spoon theory or whatever.
And then what did you have?
I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome.
Ehlers-Danlos. Okay.
Should I change it to just say chronic illness?
I don't know. Only thing that I thought that was confusing about that beginning part was just because when you said lupus, I was thinking like lupus for the longest time.
Gotcha.
Because I didn't know, because you didn't like come out.
Because I didn't say that I don't have that.
So you just say like all these like chronic diseases.
Mm-hmm.
You have like you said like symptoms and stuff. Like you talk about like your hair falling out and like maybe I think that might be I think that's before, but you really don't say what you have. You just say like a bunch of symptoms, and I thought you had lupus.
Gotcha.
And
okay.
I was like, oh, does she have some like I didn't know what lupus even was. So
Can I steal that pen so I can make a note of that?
Yeah, it's pencil lead.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I don't think that one has lead in it.
No, but that was all. That was the first thing I noticed. I just didn't know if you. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that absolutely makes sense.
Because
I had that, but then I started cutting stuff for time, and I think there's some things that I cut that I probably shouldn't have, and then other things that I left in that I shouldn't have. No.
Right, so I'm just gonna go with some of the things that I realized. These pages. Really that many negative things that I was gonna say. That was really one of the only ones. Oh, I was gonna say, I think as well, something that would help you is just like doing the rereading thing as well. Because because the more you read it, the better it's gonna flow.
Yeah. I think I definitely need to like give it a lot more, you know what I mean?
Right, I think just the rereading over things is just something that probably want to work on. And then, but something that I liked though, I liked how you brought up how it affects your peers, like your husband, and how you brought up when you had a roommate, it like affected her sleep schedule. I thought that was a really good point, and I think that's something that you could really go deep with because people really don't. When you're talking about it, people really don't think like, oh, how does that disease affect your peers? They think how it affects you, and then when you talk about like, oh, this affects me, and then you talk about how it's like throwing off other people's lives that you're involved with, and how it makes you feel bad, and the pressure on yourself. I think you could go like deeper with that as well.
See, because like one thing that I didn't talk about, so like the biggest way that it's affected me in the last like 4 months, my husband was supposed to start in January. You know this, like from chiropractic school. And he had to switch to May because, like, I'm so sick, I can't, like, not have him, which like sounds really bad and like, but yeah, so like it affects him a lot because of that. And then also like I currently live with roommates because whenever he was gonna go, I can't live alone. And so like I'm living with my best friend and her roommate plus like my husband. We have different parts of the apartment or whatever. But like I think that might be important to say that like my life looks different because I have this. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, it does. You did a great job of doing that because you kind of separated. You separated like what your life was like with it, and then you also just like I said, you just like tied along how it affects everybody. So I think that was pretty awesome. Then also I kind of liked how you talk also how it affects like college and time. You talked about like time, and you never have like enough time to do anything. I thought that was another interesting time, like just about all the energy and the espresso and things like that, because that's pretty crazy when you wouldn't. I ordered 2 new shots of espresso. And something else you could do. So when you're talking about like the like your ulcer in your stomach, I think you could go like more in depth with that. Did you have to get like? Did you say that? Did you say? Did you say that in there? You got surgery or?
No, I didn't. I had to stop drinking coffee.
Oh, that was what. Did you say that in there?
No. See, because that's the thing, is that, like, I started
that
throwing
seemed
up.
kind of, like, out of nowhere, because you were like, I had an ulcer in my stomach, and I was kind of like, okay, you got an ulcer, but, like, why do you have an ulcer in your stomach?
I feel like I need to explain that more. It's hard, though, because, like, it's kind of grotesque, because, like, I was throwing up blood, and, like, I feel bad talking about that. You know what I mean?
I think that's a part you should definitely put in there.
Okay, because I think if I say, like...
So it was from coffee?
Yeah. If you drink too much coffee,
you definitely should have that in there.
Okay.
That's, like, super...
Yeah. I was basically drinking so much coffee that, like, it ate away at the lining of my stomach. And I was drinking so much coffee so I could try to keep up and try to, like, stay busy and stay doing those things. And then, like, my body was like, bitch, sit down. Does that make sense?
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, and so, like, I had to stop drinking coffee and I couldn't keep up anymore, basically.
So, the only other... Okay, this is also what I was thinking. I liked how you brought up spoons in the intro. That was very interesting. I like that because I didn't really know it in that, and it was like, what does that mean? But then you start talking about spoons and how it's related to your friend's life. But like, because is the spoon theory like, is that?
Okay, so like spoon theory is this.
I just think I have confusions with the theories that you throw out there, which it might have been.
So like, there's one, and I feel like if I say like she came up with spoon theory, which is basically she gave her friend 12 spoons,
right?
And she said, I want you to list throughout your day what you do. And like her friend was like, okay, I get up.
This is a real
this is a real person.
Personal experience, like.
Yeah, okay. And so basically her friend was like, I get up and I brush my teeth. And Christine was like, no. You only slept 2 hours last night and you have to crawl yourself out of bed and you're late. So you have to get up, try to get dressed. You're really rushed. That takes a spoon because you're stressed out.
Right.
And then she was like, okay, I take a shower. And Christine was like, oh, takes another spoon. And she was like, okay. Then I'm late, so I skip breakfast. And Christine was like, nope, you can't do that because then you'll miss your medicine. And if you miss your medicine, then you get sick, then you go to the hospital, and blah, 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 blah. And it was like by lunch, her friend had no more spoons left. And so Christine kind of told her, like, I personally, so like this isn't Christine, like I don't know how she does things, but like I can't shower every day. I can't shower if my husband isn't home because if I fall, then I bust my head open, which has happened more times than I'd like to admit. I shower with a shower chair because if I stand up and I'm hot for too long, the blood pools in my feet and I pass out. Little things like that throughout my day take a lot more energy than they do from other people. And then because I have long hair, I have to blow dry my hair. Well, I have 4 torn ligaments in this shoulder. I can't do that. And so, like, I have to have my husband help me. And it's things like that that, like, you wouldn't think about. So the whole point of the theory is getting them to understand that, like, as a person with chronic illnesses, we are forced to make specific decisions to create space and margin in our life. Otherwise, we end up sicker than we already are. And we don't have energy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I just feel like...
there's a better way I can explain it.
I feel like that you have a very good paper, speech. Very good paper. You have a very good speech that definitely has a lot of interesting stuff in it, for sure. But I feel like you left a lot of stuff out. Like, I think that's some of the stuff that you should definitely put in. Like, you're just walking around with arm has 4 torn ligaments.
I feel
And
like
then
I'm
you can't-
complaining whenever
Well,
I do that. It's so
know, but
hard.
that's like such a resonance.
Yeah.
Like, that's like, or like not even the resonance, just like all like ethos, pathos, logos, like all
Yeah.
that. That's like what you would like want it to like reel your audience, and I feel like especially that stuff,
Yeah.
especially the medical history stuff. That's what I would be putting all that stuff in there
Okay.
as much as you can, like about your husband can't shout. That's like super.
God,
That's
it's so
super interesting.
freaking hard to
It
not
might
feel
be-
like I'm complaining though, cause like
People will be like, oh man, like
I
but
feel
that's
like
just what you have to do. I mean, that's just.
yeah,
I mean, honestly, that'd make your paper.
better.
Yeah, I think so. That'd be.
I tried talking about that in the second paragraph where I say like, if I run errands and skip a nap today, that means tomorrow my fatigue will be so high I can't safely go to class. Or if I sleep 5 minutes late, I don't have time to eat, so I can't take my medicine. And if I don't do that, then I'll be in so much pain by noon that I'm vomiting and unable to walk. Or if I stay up late to finish that assignment or polish that presentation, I risk being so dizzy and unwell the next day that I can't safely drive. Do you think that I should just talk about like add more there to show like the contrast? Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
I don't, because that's
I-
one of those times where I list it, but like, I don't know. I try to not do too much because I feel like I'm complaining and I don't ever want to complain about it because nobody can, like,
I feel like this is one of those things where like I feel like you did. I don't know. As when you were grading my coaching my paper, you told me to do like the big things
yeah.
and not in order.
Yeah, okay. So
I
you-
think, but no, but I was gonna say the complete. I think for yours, I think like doing it like systematically is like not a bad idea with like how is that what you did, or did you do like how the events, like just like big events that happen throughout your life? Or is
I
that
did it
somewhat
topically instead of,
in order how things are.
yeah,
going?
because if I do it in order, it's just too
It's
much.
just too much.
It's way
Okay.
too much.
Yeah.
Because like my first semester of college, I had a 4.0, and I wasn't even formally diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos. I have 6 diagnoses, which like we all kind of knew that I had, but they're all diagnostic and not definitive tests. And so like I spent 17 years in Cincinnati Children's System trying to get diagnosed, and then like I started to get better, and so doctors were like, okay, why are we making you come in twice a week and staying at the hospital all the time? Like if you're better, whatever. And I was like, that was a weird childhood. And then I went to college and got really, really sick. And it was in the midst of like, I didn't like bring my illness on by stressing myself out because it's genetic, but like my symptoms got a lot worse because I stressed myself out, which led to the diagnosis. Does that make sense?
No, that does. I just feel like you should most definitely just hit on your symptoms as much
Okay.
as you can. That's like good stuff. That's like I don't know. That just
But
makes.
how do I make that relate to other people? Because most people haven't had 24 broken bones.
Did you even say that in there either? I don't remember you.
It
saying
feels
that.
like complaining.
'Cause
It's
people
so
are like,
hard.
Oh, you don't have 24 broken bones.
No, but like dead ass, I have. I've had 24 documented, but like
that's really like that's just like interesting facts that are coming with your disease. What is I can't even say it.
it's a disorder. It's
that disorder.
I have a lot. So like I have a
Okay.
bone disease and then I have a genetic disorder.
Okay, yeah. So I just think you could have. I think you sugarcoated it to not sound like you didn't want to sound like you were complaining and stuff,
Yeah.
which I understand. In my paper, or my speech, I was trying not to sound like I was talking about myself the whole time. So
Yeah.
I know what you're saying. That makes total sense.
Sorry, I stole your pen.
No, it's okay. But can I look at this real
Yeah,
quick?
for sure.
So. Trying to figure out where I could start reading this. I'm gonna stop the video right here. Okay, so right here where you say my days were meticulously planned even with times to eat and sleep, which was only happening for 2 to 4 hours a night. I definitely feel like there's a different way you could reword that to make it sound not as choppy. So like, I just think it gets confusing when you start talking about like, even with times to eat and sleep, which is only happening 2 to 4 hours a night. Maybe you
Yeah.
could say like,
And it
with
goes
sleeping
maybe
2 to 4 hours a night and
Mhm.
not eating very much or something like that, right?
Yeah, I think I should say like I I had to plan out times for me to remember when to eat, and then be like,
You were only sleeping 2
Yeah.
before.
make those two, because I stumbled over that in the speech too. Whenever I was reading that, I was like, that makes 0 sense.
Okay.
Because I was not sleeping
Right.
2 to 4, or
'Cause you were
eating 2
2 to
to
4 hours a night.
Yeah.
Right, and then right here, okay, so then right here above it, you say 2 years ago I spun myself into the ground. I thought I was thriving. That part right there just confused me a little bit because it just kind of sounds like a little bit contradictive.
Yeah.
But yeah, what did that mean exactly?
So like 2 years ago, I spun myself into the ground, and then I make a pause. It's hard on the manuscript versus like whenever I'm actually doing it.
Okay.
So I'd say like 2 years ago, I spun myself into the ground. I thought I was thriving. I was doing all of these things, but in the end, like what you don't see from this picture of me seeing myself thriving is that I was only getting 2 to 4 hours of sleep at night. I was throwing up every single day. I was fainting almost every single day. All of these horrible things were happening, but like I was just dealing because I wanted to keep up with the busyness that I was supposed to have. It's hard because like I could also talk about like during that time I was also newly engaged and wedding planning and only just turned 17, and it was just a lot in like a time period, but like it's hard to know how much detail to give versus how much brevity. Like it's kind of just a balance between like clarity and brevity, if that makes sense.
Oh, that does make a lot of sense. Yeah, I just think that whole paragraph, right, or the beginning of that paragraph is actually like, the more I look at it, it's kind of confusing.
Yeah.
Because right here, excuse me, you say 2 years ago I spun myself to the ground. I thought I was thriving. My lowest grade was 94%. Plenty of time with friends, company top of schoolwork, emails, went there for an extension.
Should I just like delete
It just
that
seems
first part?
it just seems like for me when I keep reading these, the first time in my life, every year life was going well. It seems like you talk about like you were spinning yourself on the ground, you thought you were thriving, and then you like go back to talking about how good it was going, and then you go back to how bad it was.
I think I need to say like this is all that was going good. From this description, you'd think that I was doing well, but what you don't see is what I wasn't showing, which was I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating, my hair was literally falling out, I was throwing up, I was in pain, all of those things. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, that makes And then like talking about in that 8 to 10 shots of espresso a day, and then you should put in that stomach part that we didn't.
Yeah, that we talked about before.
Yes. I was a little stressed all the time. I was only something that Okay, wait, okay, that's where it is. Okay, sees my boyfriend all the time. I was throwing up blood. I was unwilling to accept the fact that I couldn't handle the business any longer. I was so stressed all the time that I gave myself a bleeding ulcer in my stomach. So that makes it sound like a stress ulcer, kind of like, right?
Yeah, because that's the thing, is like the ulcer isn't even connected to me having Ehlers-Danlos syndrome.
No, it's not, but it's just a part that, like, when you say ulcer and stuff like bleed, it's just like, that sounds like it says very, like, I think you should just go more on that.
Yeah.
I really do.
I think I should make a differentiation between like the fact that I got that because I was trying to keep up with all of the stress. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I totally do.
Because it's a hard contrast because like it isn't directly related. Like I'm not prone to them because I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, but like I was drinking so much coffee to keep up because of my Ehlers-Danlos syndrome that I gave myself a thing.
And I feel like that is something that doesn't come across right away throughout the paper.
Yeah, I agree.
That's why I think that maybe you just reword a couple things and it sounds, I don't know. I feel like there's a couple, I hear you're trying to be reserved though and not put yourself like completely out there.
I don't mind that. It's also one of those things that like, I'm registered with Disability Services and I miss a lot of class and like in front of professors. I have a really hard time because I have to ask for extensions a lot and I have to like, man, like my attendance sucks. And so like, I have a hard time in front of a professor talking about all of the things because I don't want them to think that I'm trying to like, I don't know. I just have this huge self-consciousness about not wanting to sound like I'm complaining. Because at the end of the day, no one can fix it. Like,
and I think that shows in your paper. That's what I think that shows in your paper. I think that you definitely hide some I think you definitely try to beat around the bush.
Yeah.
With a couple things. Or you kind of don't explain things thoroughly, so like some just like symptoms get thrown out of nowhere with like not like explanations behind them. But it's not like there's not explanations behind them. I know what's going on because
Because you know it,
Because I
yeah.
understand what you're trying to say now.
Yeah.
Like when you said I was drinking 8 to 10 shots of espresso a day, I survived on. Like that part right there, that espresso a day. I had no idea that had to do like how like.
Yeah.
Because you just throw that in there, which I get it because it's like you talk about energy and stuff, but.
Yeah.
You get what
I
I'm
think
saying.
I need to say, like, I was doing that, which gave me the ulcer.
Or
like, I was drinking
Sorry,
this
we
much.
keep going in a circle.
No, it's fine. That just happens. Like, that's the nature of it. I think if I say, like, I was drinking that much a day to try to keep up, but all of that coffee gave me an ulcer, so I had no choice but to slow down, because without caffeine, I can't keep up like other people can.
But it was like causing, was the caffeine? Was that also part of the reason why your hair was falling out and stuff like that? Was from the caffeine? Was the ulcer like?
No, it was just stress.
It was just stress, really.
Yeah, like my hormones. Like basically, I went into adrenal failure, which I'm still actually technically in. So like, outside of the speech, like you have like panic attacks and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's like my autonomic nervous system thinks that I'm dying all the time, which I'm not. So like, basically, it's like, oh God, I'm in so much pain. I'm gonna send an autonomic nervous system alert, which is basically a panic attack. Mentally, I'm fine. Physically, my body is sweating. I have so much adrenaline going through my system. I'm shaking. I can't feel my fingers, can't feel my toes. Like all those physical characteristics of a panic attack. But like that's all from all of the adrenaline that I was getting. So then whenever you add the stress, the adrenaline attacks come on more, or panic attacks come on more, which then eventually your adrenal system just shuts down, and it's like I cannot produce it anymore.
These are all like really good points that I think you could have put in there.
So
because like this just like when you talk about that stuff, it really makes people like just they're just like, thank God I don't have. I don't know, it makes you feel bad.
No, I get it.
That's what, and I know you don't want that to be like completely what everyone thinks, because like, that's really like, I think that'd be really good to put in there for sure. I think all that stuff would be good to put in there.
Okay.
100%.
I think I'm going to talk more about like what the stress was physically doing to my body.
Right.
And then also like just because it happened, just because I have like okay, you talk about wrestling and stuff, and like before you wrestle or like before you do something like a competition, like you get that like adrenaline feeling. I get that like 14 to 20 times a day. And so like after a big thing, normal people are like, man, I'm tired. That's me all of the time.
Okay, so you get like that. It wouldn't be like. Because in this class that we're in right now, we always talk about anxiety and speech. We watch all those videos and things like that. Mm-hmm. So is that like,
It affects my speeches so much. Oh my God. That's part of why I didn't want to talk about it though, because
is there like a fear of you going up there and something's like happening, like you?
Yeah, I've had to reach out to Mary before, because like the last speech I didn't sleep all night long, and I thought I was going to pass out in front of everyone, and that is like worst case scenario to me. It was the first speech, I think, where like literally my body gives such a physical reaction. If you see my hands shake like leaves, I literally have so much sweat on my hands, like I can't. It's awful. But yeah, I get like a huge like physical response to speaking. And like I technically probably should have told my doctor, like I don't think this class is a very good idea because it's making me kind of sick. But like also I don't want to let that. I mean, it's fair though, like I don't know. It's hard. Like those are things I should have talked to our professor about, but I didn't do it because like I have so much fear about not keeping up.
You should put that in this paper.
Oh gosh.
You should put all that stuff in there. That would actually be really.
It's just hard. Like I wanted to tell her those things, and I wanted to be like, look, like I have such a physical response to this. I throw up before and after every single speech.
Oh.
And like I don't.
Really, that's cool stuff. That you should put all that stuff in there.
But then I have to tell her, and I'll be like, she can watch this video. So I highly doubt she's gonna watch the whole thing. But no, but like it's hard.
Well.
I don't want it to sound like an excuse, and I don't want to ever let. I'm not personally, I think, very good at public speaking. So then I don't want to say like I have all of this, like I have a panic disorder that makes it even worse to come off as an excuse for why I'm not good at public speaking.
Yeah. No,
I don't like excuses.
I don't think that comes off as excuse. I think that comes off as pretty good, and I think if you said that while you were in a public speech, that'd be funny. That's also something I didn't put. You had like, that's something that I should have brought up earlier. You honestly like you had a lot of really good points, but it's all serious.
Yeah, I know.
All of it's serious. There's like, which is like, it's great that it's serious.
I don't know how to make it not serious.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no palate, like you told me, there's no palate cleansers in here.
Mm-hmm.
It's all just like, pretty serious stuff. Like, there's nothing funny in it, so no one's gonna laugh.
Well, it's so hard because like how I deal with everything is to laugh about it. Like.
But you're gonna set the tone. That's not gonna be a laughing tone. You're gonna set the tone very serious.
I'm not good at. I don't know how to write in humor.
Me neither, but that's just.
I don't want it to drone on and be like. That's why I didn't talk about my symptoms, because it gets so serious, and I don't know how to explain it because like I have like.
You could put this. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
That I was thriving part. You could make that a joke. You could say. Like. You could say, why don't you see from this description when I was in so much pain, throwing up, passing out as a daily occurrence. I was drinking 8 to 10 shots of espresso a day. I was thriving on a schedule laid out in my planner. And you could say, you could say I was thriving.
Yeah.
And that would be funny.
Okay.
That I think
try to incorporate humor.
It's something because like.
I feel like it's just so heavy.
But one palate cleanse would be
good.
Probably.
See, that's why I don't want to talk about my symptoms because it gets really heavy. Like, if I talk about the fact that, like, I literally, and, like, earlier today, I had, like, at least 2 of my ribs dislocate. I've had a broken back. I've had all of these. That's, like, a daily occurrence now. Like, I'm not wearing a mask right now, which is really bad.
I know what you're talking about.
But, like, I do that because if I get a cough, I'm literally going to dislocate all of my ribs and my lungs collapse. And so how do I talk about those things, like, all of those symptoms that are crazy and scary and like are kind of sort of life-threatening, and to be like ha ha ha, because to me I can joke my way through it. Like, I would be in a hospital bed making jokes with doctors, but like how do you write that in?
Or you keep it serious throughout your entire paper until you get to your conclusion.
Yeah.
And just say something about like spoons, like make sure you like.
Yeah.
This is my experience with that, and I want to stress to you guys it's important to make sure you keep all your spoons. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then walk away, and everyone's like, "Oh, she brought up spoons. That's funny." But that's not.
I need to work humor in somewhere. You're right.
If you get any type of humor in there, I'm thinking that it might help.
It's so hard because I don't feel like it's serious, but I know that whenever I talk to other people about it, it sounds really serious. Because like if I talk to you about like my medical history, you would be like, "Oh shit." But to me, like, that's just life. And, like, if I don't joke about it, then I'm going to cry about it, and I'm not going to spend the rest of my life being sad.
That's a good point you can put in there, too. Boom.
Yeah.
You don't put that in the paper either.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Sorry, I'm just calling out points.
No, I think that's good. I think I need to put that somewhere, that, like, it is really hard. And literally, that, like, if I don't joke about it and if I don't pretend like it's no big... It isn't a big deal. Like, it's just my life. Like, but I don't know. It's hard to talk, like, it's hard to make other people laugh about your pain. It's really easy to laugh at your own. It's easy for me to laugh at my own. But, like, to make other people laugh at it, it's more, like, shock humor than it is, like, funny humor.
Yeah, I think you did a really good job, like just explaining it all. I don't feel like it's not funny either. I feel like you could have made this, I don't know. It just depends on the tone that you pitch it out at. That's how I feel. Like if you pitch it out in a really sad tone, then it's gonna be sad. But I feel like
I don't want it to be sad.
If you're somewhat uplifting about it, I feel like it could be like a really happy, not happy, but like informational speech, let alone like a sad story. But no, I think it's really good. I think you have a lot of really good stuff in there. I think that you should definitely put more of those like symptoms in there.
Yeah.
That would be for sure.
I feel like it's hard, like the only symptom people can see is me wear the mask every day. You know what I mean?
Right. But there's a lot more than that you can elaborate on, just the mask.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see for support encouragement. But yeah, I think everything, I do think it's pretty good. I think there's just like some, not even organization, I just think that you could put, I don't even know. I think you really think you use a palate cleanser. That's the only thing I really can think of. Just, I think that would be the best thing for your paper. Some type of, just something, so you don't feel like you're rambling on about how your symptoms are so bad.
Yeah.
No, maybe you'll probably make everyone else feel like you're not trying to ramble on about your symptoms.
Yeah.
It doesn't really feel like you're rambling on. I'm saying if you're self-conscious about that, I think a joke would be a really good way to go. But yeah, so. Camera fell over? Okay. We're good. Alrighty, so let's just go through that one more time, and then we'll just interrupt you when I feel the need.
Not intimidating at all. Okay. I'm grateful to have a limited amount of spoons. Some of you may know what this means, and some of you probably think that I'm crazy. I live in the constant tension between what I want to do and what I'm feasibly able to do. This is because I have an illness that impacts every single part of my life. Some would call me a spoonie. Maybe it's time to explain that. In 2003, Christine Miserandino created the spoon theory. She was sitting in her apartment when her roommate asked her what life was like with her chronic illness, which is lupus. Christine was puzzled because her roommate went to every doctor's appointment with her, saw her take countless medications, and saw her violently ill and bedridden.
Wait, hold on. So did that top part when you read it, did that like seem choppy to you when you were reading it? Because I like caught you like hesitating, like what you were trying to.
Yeah, I feel like it's partly because I'm reading from a paper and I haven't practiced it.
You haven't practiced it at all.
I mean, I have practiced it, but like not enough.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Reading it is like whenever I actually present, I'm not gonna have a manuscript. I'm just gonna have spark notes and I'm gonna have it memorized, so it won't be as choppy. But yeah, I have a hard time. I read ahead of what my words are.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
No, yeah, that makes perfect sense. I was just wondering if I didn't want you to.
No, it's fine.
There's some organization on.
Okay. Christine didn't know how to fully answer her, so she gave her roommate a pile of 12 spoons and asked her to list every single thing that she did that day, starting at waking up. For each task, such as getting out of bed, brushing her teeth, finding an outfit to wear, or taking a shower, Christine took a spoon away per task. By mid-morning, throughout her roommate's routine, the spoons were gone, and Christine told her she has to be done for the day and sit under the weight of her undone to-do list. That is what life is like with a chronic illness. You, as an able-bodied person, might have 100 or more spoons, but people like me don't have that liberty.
Don't have that liberty?
Don't have that.
Is that what you said, liberty?
No, I didn't, but what I said doesn't make sense.
Don't have that. Wait, read the sentence again.
So, like, I don't know how to say, like, that is what life is like as a chronic illness. What I wrote is, that is life with a chronic illness where energy is defined as spoons. You as an able-bodied person might have 100 or more, but most people don't have to make, you may have 100 or more, most people don't have to make every decision throughout their day by the number of spoons they have left. I, however, have to live every single day according to my energy levels or the amount of spoons in my arsenal because I don't know when the next big health crisis is going to arise and, like, need to have leftovers.
That kind of sounds, like, hard to, like,
yeah.
Like, you have to know, like, what you're talking about. But I don't really know any better way that you could, like, put it. Does the spoons have, like, anything to do, like, with, like,
it's just a counting.
To it,
no, it's literally just a counting mechanism. Okay, I was gonna say, if that did mean something, you could like break it down and like say, I don't know. I was thinking like a spoon, like you. No, there's no meaning to it. It's literally just like a counting measure, and so like I don't know how to better explain it. I think what I need to do is read the blog post again and then paraphrase it better because I was kind of like stressed about. I was kind of stressed about like just writing it out, and so I think I need to give the intro and like explaining spoon theory better.
Right.
Does that make sense?
No, that makes sense. For sure. Okay. Sorry.
Okay. When I read her story for the first time, I was in a puddle of tears. I had never had a way of explaining to my family and friends how I felt. You see, if I run errands and skip a nap today, that means tomorrow my fatigue may be so high that I can't safely go to class for fear I'll pass out or something worse. Or if I sleep for 5 minutes too late and don't have time to eat my breakfast, I can't take my medication. That may not sound like that big of a deal to you, but for me, if I don't take my medicine in a timely manner, it's likely that I'll be in so much pain by noon that I'm vomiting and unable to walk. If I stay up too late to turn in that assignment on time or polish that presentation, I risk being so dizzy and unwell the next day that I can't even safely drive or get out of bed. Every choice that I make affects how my tomorrow will be. I have a limited amount of resources. Or a limited amount.
Wait, go back to that part. What'd you say?
Every choice that I make affects how my tomorrow will be. I have a limited amount of resources. And then I go into something else that doesn't make sense, so I'm going to change that. But, like, I need to say, like, every single day I have a limited amount of resources or a limited amount of spoons. Like, I don't know how to...
Head back to spoons. It's not a bad idea. Just bring it back.
I think instead of saying I have a limited amount of resources, I just need to say I have a limited amount of spoons.
Yeah, because that roulette, yeah.
Because, like, switching back and forth is confusing.
Yeah. You might as well keep it with that so people know what you're talking about, even though it's like a figure of speech.
Yeah. And I don't know how to say, like, I have this in there, but I feel like it's fluff that I say I can borrow against tomorrow's spoons, but what if I get a chest cold or an infection? My body wouldn't have the energy to fight it. Like,
That
yeah.
sounds fine.
Is it?
That sounds okay.
Okay.
That doesn't sound terrible.
Until I learned about the spoon theory, I thought that no one was ever going to understand why I had to make the choices that I do each day. And then, you see, we all have different roles that we fit into or different hats that we wear. For me, it's being a woman who is married, a full-time college student, a dog mom, a family member, and someone who has an extremely limited amount of spoons or resources because of my chronic illness. Each of us have different hats that we have to juggle, and with a society that pressures us to be busy all of the time, we're unable to truly rest without feeling guilt. Not only is the overglorification of busy harmful to all of our mental and physical health, it's downright dangerous for the people who have chronic illnesses. As women, we have this pressure to be perfect, to be a princess, to manage life at home and at school or at work with grace. Idleness is seen as failure because we see the amount of work that should be getting done. I can personally attest to having a mountain of laundry to be done, a pile of dishes in my sink, and floors that my mother would be ashamed of. I can almost guarantee you that every bed in my home is unmade. There is this culture where we say yes to more than we can healthily handle and wear chaotic busyness as a badge of honor. We constantly see women talk about how busy they are and how little sleep they get, as well as how much they do. Getting little sleep and having a lot of stress is seen as normal for all of us. Then, as college students, which is another role that a college student is another role that I and all of you have. We each have 4 to 6 classes or 12 to sometimes 21 credit hours, plus homework to do. There's pressure to have vibrant extracurricular life with constant fear that our resumes won't be as good without them. There's pressures for Greek life and social engagement, as well as the pressure to find a good job and prove that we didn't just waste tens of thousands of dollars on education. I cannot remember a single day in the near 3 years that I have been a student where I haven't heard either myself or a fellow student talk about how overwhelmed and anxious they are about our workload. It never really turns off. We're in this cycle of production and pressure to succeed, cutting every single self-care corner that we can just to boost our success. It's seen as shameful to say no. I used to feel copious amounts of guilt for even asking for an extension or saying no to being the leader of a group project or even telling a friend that I cannot be their person at the moment. 2 years ago, I was caught in this cycle. I spun myself into the ground, though at the time I thought that I was thriving. My lowest grade was a 94%. I made plenty of time for friends and was...
That part sounds so weird to me. I
I know.
I don't know why that does, but that part just doesn't...
Yeah.
I don't know why. I have no idea. That's just my...
I don't know how to, make the contrast less contrasty.
No,
yeah. Okay, it's seen as shameful to say no. I used to feel copious amounts of guilt for asking an extension or saying no to being the group leader of a project or telling a friend I can't be their person at the moment. Should I just say, when I was a freshman in college, I thought that I was thriving. My lowest grade was a 94%. I made plenty of time for friends and was constantly on top of schoolwork, never too far away from my phone so I can reach or respond to emails. I would never dare ask a professor for an extension. For the first time in my life, I thought that every area of my life was going well. What you don't see from that description is that I was in so much pain, throwing up and passing out was a daily occurrence. I was drinking 8 to 10 shots of espresso a day to give myself the energy to keep up with my peers. I survived on a schedule laid out in my planner. My days were meticulously planned, even with times to eat. Sleep was also scheduled, but I was only getting 2 to 4 hours a night. I was doing so well in school, but my success was at a detriment to my health. I was ignoring the fact that my hair was falling out. I was fainting often. I had to take medication to sleep and medication to handle the unexplained pains. It all came to a breaking point right before finals.
You say medication to sleep and medication to...
Yeah.
I would just say medication to sleep and for...
Okay.
I would say it twice. Medication and medication, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But...
I don't know how to explain it, because I was taking 22 pills a day. So
I'll just say that.
I was taking 22 pills a day to try to keep my body going.
Yes, that's. I feel like you have a lot of things that you could just put it down, like some really good details. Like that's a really
Yeah.
good detail that you don't put in there either. Like you just
Yeah.
You just leave a lot of the big things out.
Yeah.
Like that's like a hard thing to go through, is taking 22 pills every single day.
Yeah.
Like that's a challenge in itself. I feel like you can. I don't know. I feel like.
No, I get it.
Right.
I think I should just say he wasn't my husband at the time, but he is my husband. I don't know how to word that, because I say my boyfriend at the time, whom I am married to. I don't know. Like, because if I say my boyfriend, it sounds like he's a different person. And like, I can say like my then fiance, because I think we were engaged at this point.
My future fiance.
Yeah.
Or who I am once married to.
My then fiance at the time told me that I had to go to the hospital because my pains were getting worse and I started throwing up blood. I was unwilling to accept the fact that I can't handle the busyness any longer. I was stressed out all of the time, and I gave myself a bleeding ulcer in my stomach. And then I need to talk about like.
Dude, that sounds a little weird too.
Mhm.
It's not really well pieced together. It's just kind of.
Yeah.
Put there.
I think that I need to reword that and say like.
I was drinking so much espresso.
Exactly.
To where I got the stomach, because then people be like, "What?"
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, I was so unwilling to accept the fact that I couldn't handle the busyness any longer. I was so stressed out all of the time that I gave myself a bleeding ulcer in my stomach.
Yeah.
How would I tell professors that I spent the night in the hospital and couldn't turn that paper in? How could I tell my friends that I couldn't hang out as much as I used to? How could I accept the fact that I needed to choose to say no? I felt like my life was over. I couldn't be that girl who had a perfect high school sweetheart relationship, a gorgeous clean home, and a 4.0 any longer. That first hospital trip was a wake-up call.
Oh.
That first hospital trip was a wake-up call that was nothing compared to my final diagnosis, which was Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It explained the broken bones, the need for coffee, the constant dislocations, the pain, the frequent panic attacks, constant exhaustion. I said exhaustion twice. I'm not doing that. Okay. It explained the broken bones and constant dislocation. It explained the pain, the frequent panic attacks, and constant exhaustion for my body trying to heal itself, as well as the fainting I was experiencing on a near daily basis. But no one had the answer to my biggest question, which is, how do I do it all? How do I juggle all of my roles? I have 11 different medical doctors / specialists on my team, and every single one of them told me that I either had to slow my pace or give up everything that I worked for because I was going to injure myself beyond repair. My adrenals were shot, my heart couldn't keep up, and my body was screaming for me to slow down, but this pressure to keep going was pervasive. I really didn't have an option other than, I need to word that better, because I just say I had to choose to slow down. And then later I say I didn't have an option. But I think I just need to say, like, my body forced me to slow down.
Yeah.
And then, so here we are today. I no longer have a 4.0. I no longer keep a schedule. I unfortunately have to say no to more opportunities than I get to say yes. Sometimes the guilt gets to me, but if I push it today, then tomorrow I will feel it and it will seriously hurt.
See, that part sounds weird too.
I know.
If I push it today, then tomorrow I will feel it.
Yeah.
That part sounds a little bit like...
I need to say, like, if I push myself today, that means... I don't know how to explain it. You know? I don't know how to word that better.
It's like
But I need to just say, like, sometimes the guilt gets to me, but if I go too hard today, then tomorrow I'll be really sick. But, like, that sounds like a child wording it.
Right.
Okay, I'll work on that. I'm not a person that could have made this choice to slow down without something forcing me. And I think I need to say, like, because of my personality and love for being busy, I couldn't have made this choice to slow down without something forcing me. And I would be lying if I said I didn't miss the adrenaline rushes or caffeine highs. But what I have now is so much greater. I'm forced to accept help. I'm absolutely grateful for everything that I'm able to do because I had to mercilessly cut extras from my life. I learned to be grateful to have a limited amount of spoons because it took the option of staying busy away. I don't know.
Do you say you took the choice?
Yeah. Because that's true. Like, the thing is that, like, if I wouldn't have had this force me to slow down, I would still be that person that drinks too much coffee and doesn't sleep and is really unhealthy. But, like,
Right.
my body can't support that lifestyle. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, it's just hard. And then what I want you to get from this is that you should give yourself the permission to fail and say no, even if you don't have a physical cause. When others need help or grace, I hope that you freely give it. I wish I could tell you that I had the magical formula to not feel guilt when slowing down means that you can't keep up or you had to say no, or that I'm even good at listening to my body, because I'm not. What I do know is that by being forced to slow down, I look at others with so much more empathy and grace. In our world of conflict, I sincerely hope that you make the decision to simplify, to take care of yourself. I promise you that the world will keep spinning. I promise you that the world will keep turning if you choose to prioritize taking care of yourself over the badge of chaotic busyness.
Oh,
I just need to work on it.
wasn't too bad. Alright, we just move on to the next thing. So, developing a plan.
What's my plan and stand?
What's your plan? So let's write this down quick. Developing plan. Okay, yeah, so as I was saying, I think that the first thing you should do is just go through, and I think that you should just, I really think that you should put more of the symptoms and hardships that you go through, but I know I've been saying that 1,000 times,
Yeah.
but I think that is a really good part. I think that you should add that you've taken 22 pills a day.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you should add in that you had a stomach ulcer because you drank so much coffee.
Yeah, the cause and not just that it
I
happened.
think that you should put in that with your disease, bones break easier, because
Yeah.
that's not told at all. You don't know that at all, and that's like a big part. Yeah, that's what I think you should do. I also think. I also, in your conclusion, something else that I thought that you might want to take out is how, like, you kind of start talking about, so the whole paper you're basically talking about your life and how it affects you and all this and that, but like then in the conclusion you kind of relate that back to like how people should help. You're like, if you like, I don't know how to, like, what I'm trying to say. You kind of, you know what I'm trying to say? Because you kind of start talking about how, like,
Yeah.
if you see somebody with like a mental awareness or like a mental health awareness thing where it's like,
Well, it's just hard. Like, my point is that I want others to realize that, like,
right, yeah, like what was that's the point, like what's the point of the conclusion? Like, do you want others to
I want
know
other
what
people
you're
to
going
slow
through?
down. No, like, I think,
That's the point.
We
I was
have-
like, what is the point? Like,
yeah, like, we have this glorification of busy, and it's not just for me. Like, the thing is that everybody, especially women, feel this need to keep going. Like, I know I'm not at the life stage like most of my peers are. Like, I'm married, starting a family, all of those big crazy things. And so I have a husband that I have to, like, figure out. I have a house that I have to figure out. I have school that I have to figure out. Will have kids that I have to, like, all of those things. And we're in this culture where we constantly have to keep going and keep moving forward and all of this stuff. So then, it's dangerous for everybody. It's unhealthy for everybody, but it's really dangerous for someone with a chronic illness. But what I want people to understand is that, like, you shouldn't have to have this big crazy thing to happen for you to also give yourself grace and slow down. Does that make sense?
no, yeah.
Because, like, I want people to not do what I did. I want people to take the signs to slow down before they start hurting themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I feel like I need to tie that through the rest of my paper, not just the ending, and that's why I'm having such a hard time with the ending.
That probably, yeah, yeah.
Because, like, I want people to take away from this is that, like,
That's the part because I was confused.
you
with
need
the
to
takeaway.
not do what I did.
Not do what you do. So
Yeah.
you want them, if they have what you have, to try to.
I want
Yeah,
them
because
regardless of if
that-
they have what I have. Like, even you, we're staying up super late to do schoolwork, and, like, we need to not feel this pressure to overperform and to be, like, hyper productive. But, like, as a college student, even my roommate who doesn't have, like, a chronic illness, literally, like, she has a hard time sleeping because she's like, man, I have this pile of crap that I have to get done. And like, I want people to understand that, like, yeah, I had to go through these extreme measures to slow down. And I am grateful for the fact that I have a finite amount of resources where you can probably just drink coffee and keep going. You know what I mean? Like, other people
Right.
don't have to make the intentional
Yes.
decisions that I do. And I want to tie in the fact that, like, I'm grateful for the fact that I have limited amounts of resources
Right.
because I was forced to slow down, but other people, it's a lot harder.
Right.
Because I wouldn't have slowed down if my body didn't make me. I would still be that person with a 4. Well, probably wouldn't work to keep a 4.0. That was really hard. But, like, you know what I mean?
Right. No, I get you.
I think I just need to tie that through the rest of it and not just in the end. Because that's confusing. So, yeah.
Yeah, awesome, cool. Well, I think that should wrap it up, I believe. So that is the coaching assignment with Drake and Logan.